Deep within the heart of the Elderwood, where the sunlight barely kisses the mossy floor, the air feels different. It's thick with the scent of pine needles and ancient secrets. Elara moved through the ferns like a fleeting thought, her golden hair catching the stray beams of light. She wasn't supposed to be this far into the forest. The village elders spoke of shifting shadows and creatures that didn't belong to the world of men, but Elara always felt more at home among the trees than under a thatched roof. She stopped by a crystal-clear spring, the water bubbling over smooth stones. As she knelt to drink, the forest went silent. Not a bird chirped, not a leaf rustled. Then, a heavy, rhythmic thud echoed through the earth. Clip-clop, clip-clop. Elara froze. Emerging from the emerald mist was a figure that defied every story she'd ever been told. He was magnificent. From the waist down, he possessed the powerful, muscular body of a midnight black stallion, his coat shimmering like polished onyx. But from the waist up, he was a man, broad-shouldered, sun-bronzed, with eyes the color of stormy seas. This was Kaelen. He didn't charge. He didn't retreat. He simply watched her, his chest heaving slightly from a long gallop. Elara should have been terrified, but as their eyes met, a strange warmth washed over her. It wasn't fear, it was recognition. Kaelen stepped forward, his hooves soft on the damp earth. He reached out a hand, fingers long and calloused, and gently tucked a stray lock of hair behind Elara's ear. His touch was electric, sending a shiver down her spine that had nothing to do with the forest chill. "You're far from the village, little bird," he whispered, his voice a low rumble that vibrated in the air between them. Elara didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned into his palm. "The village feels small. The forest feels like me." Kaelen leaned down, his face inches from hers. The scent of wild rain and musk surrounded her. In that isolated grove, away from the judgment of the world, the boundaries between their species began to blur. He swept her up effortlessly, cradling her against his human chest while his powerful equine lower body held them steady. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the canopy in hues of violet and gold, they found themselves under the Great Willow. The world outside the forest ceased to exist. There are no rules here, only the steady beat of two hearts finding a rhythm they never knew they were missing. Kaelen lowered her to a bed of soft clover, his gaze intense and filled with a longing centuries in the making. He traced the line of her throat with his thumb, his movements slow and reverent. "Stay," he murmured against her skin. "Let the world forget you're gone." Elara wrapped her arms around his neck, pulling him closer. In the silence of the Elderwood, their romance bloomed like a night-flowering jasmine, hidden, intoxicating, and dangerously beautiful. This was only the beginning of a bond that would shake the very foundations of the woods. The moon rose high over the Elderwood, casting silver threads through the willow branches. For Elara, the passage of time had lost its meaning. In the arms of Kaelen, the heavy expectations of her village, the arranged marriages and the dull, predictable chores felt like a dream from a past life. Here, in the cool dampness of the night, everything was visceral and alive. Kaelen moved with a grace that was both animalistic and deeply refined. He settled beside her, his powerful equine legs folded neatly, while his human torso remained upright, a guardian in the dark. He watched Elara with a fierce protectiveness, his hand resting possessively on her waist. "The others of my kind, they do not understand the pull of the sunlight people," Kaelen said softly, his fingers tracing patterns on her skin. "They see only the axes you carry and the fires you light. But I saw you, and I saw a spirit that moves like the wind." Elara sat up, her fingers trembling as she ran them over the velvet fur of his flank, feeling the incredible strength hidden beneath the surface. "They call you a monster in the songs, Kaelen, but they've never seen the way you look at the stars. They don't know that your heart beats just like mine." A low, rumbling hum vibrated in Kaelen's chest, a sound of contentment. He pulled her closer, his lips finding the sensitive curve where her neck met her shoulder. The intimacy was overwhelming, a blend of wild nature and human tenderness. In the isolation of the forest, Their passion grew, fueled by the thrill of the forbidden. Every touch was a discovery. Kaelen marveled at the softness of her skin, so fragile compared to the rugged terrain of his world. Elara found solace in his warmth, a heat that seemed to radiate from him like a living hearth. They spoke in whispers of things they could never say aloud, of running forever toward the mountains where the snow never melts, and of a life where they didn't have to hide in the shadows. As the first light of dawn began to gray the edges of the sky, a distant sound broke the spell. It was the faint, rhythmic ringing of the village bell, a call for the morning prayer, and a reminder that Elara's absence would soon be noticed. Fear flickered in her eyes, a sharp contrast to the soft glow of moments before. Kaelen felt the change in her instantly. He stood, his hooves digging into the soft earth, his expression hardening into one of defiance. "They will come looking," he stated, his voice like grinding stone. "I have to go back," Elara whispered, though her hands gripped his arms, refusing to let go. "If they find you, they'll bring the hunters. They won't understand. They'll see a beast stealing a girl." Kaelen leaned down, pressing his forehead against hers, his eyes burning with an ancient fire. "Let them come. I have spent a lifetime roaming these woods alone. I will not let the sun take you away without a fight." But Elara knew the danger. She reached up, cupping his face, her heart breaking at the thought of the torches and the steel. "If I go now, I can lead them away. I can keep you safe." Kaelen let out a sharp, pained huff of breath, his tail swishing restlessly. The romance of the night was crashing into the reality of the morning. He knew she was right, but the thought of the forest growing silent again was more than he could bear. "Promise me, Elara," he demanded, his grip tightening just enough to let her feel his power. "Promise me this isn't the end. The willow will wait. I will wait. I promise," she breathed, stealing one last, desperate kiss that tasted of pine and longing. As Elara disappeared back into the thicket, her golden hair vanishing into the morning mist, Kaelen let out a haunting, melodic neigh that echoed through the valley, a cry of love, a warning to the world, and a vow that the Elderwood would never be the same again. The village felt like a cage. For 3 days, Elara moved like a ghost through the dusty streets, the scent of Kaelen's skin still clinging to her memory. Every time a floorboard creaked or a horse whinnied in the stables, her heart leaped, hoping it was him, knowing it couldn't be. The elders looked at her with suspicion, noting the way her eyes constantly drifted toward the dark tree lean of the Elderwood. Back in the deep green silence, Kaelen was a storm contained in a single body. He paced the grove under the Great Willow, his hooves churning the clover into mud. The solitude he once craved now felt like a vacuum. He found himself standing by the spring where they first met, staring at his own reflection, wondering if he truly was the monster the villagers feared, or if the woman with the golden hair had changed the very nature of his soul. On the 4th night, Elara couldn't endure the silence any longer. Under the cover of a new moon, she slipped out of her window, her boots silent on the grass. She didn't follow the path. She ran straight through the briars, guided by a pull in her chest that felt like a physical cord tied to the heart of the forest. She reached the clearing breathless, her dress torn and her skin scratched by thorns. Kaelen was there, waiting in the shadows like a statue carved from the night itself. When he saw her, he didn't walk. He galloped, the thunder of his approach shaking the very leaves above them. He skidded to a halt inches from her, sweeping her into his arms before his hooves had even settled. "You came back," he growled, his voice thick with relief. He buried his face in the crook of her neck, inhaling the scent of her as if he were a drowning man reaching the surface. "I couldn't stay away," Elara sobbed, her hands tangled in his dark mane. "The world out there is gray, Kaelen. It has no color without you." But their reunion was cut short. A flickering orange glow began to dance across the distant trunks. The sound of barking hounds and the low murmur of men's voices drifted on the wind. The village had noticed her disappearance, and this time, they hadn't come to bring her home. They had come to hunt the shadow that had bewitched her. Kaelen's ears flattened against his head, and a low, dangerous snarl escaped his lips. He shifted, placing Elara behind his powerful equine haunches, his muscles tensing like coiled springs. "They bring fire into my home," Kaelen said, his eyes glowing with a predatory light. "Kaelen, no. If you hurt them, there will be no turning back," Elara pleaded, grabbing his arm. "They'll send the army. They'll burn the whole forest to find you." Kaelen looked back at her, his expression a mix of wild fury and heartbreaking tenderness. "Then we run, not to the village and not to the clearing. We go to the high peaks, where the mist never lifts and the tracks of men are swallowed by the stone." He knelt down, beckoning her to mount. Elara hesitated for only a second. To stay was to live a half-life in a world that would never understand her. To go was to step into a legend, a life of wild freedom and a love that defied the laws of nature. She climbed onto his broad, powerful back, locking her arms around his human waist. Kaelen reared up, a magnificent silhouette against the rising firelight of the hunters, and let out a defiant cry that silenced the hounds and froze the men in their tracks. With a powerful surge of his hind legs, he leaped over the fallen logs and vanished into the deepest thickets. They rode as one, part human, part beast, and entirely bound by a passion that burned brighter than any hunter's torch. Behind them, the Elderwood closed its ranks, the trees weaving together to hide the trail of the girl and the horseman who chose the wild over the world.